The concept and understanding of cancer has really evolved through the times. There's been plenty of weird and wonderful theories about what cancer is and how to treat it. It all started from the ancient Greeks, who referred to cancer as carcinus, which means crab. They use this analogy because, like a crab, the body of the tumour is round and red, and it would grab hold of the person and not let go. So let's explore other proposed theories through the times of this life-threatening condition. If you enjoy exploring how medicine has evolved through the ages, please subscribe to my channel, Doctor of the Ages. So people in the 17th century referred to cancer as being an animal that ate the body of the sufferer. Surprisingly, this was more than just a saying, as some doctors would apply raw meat to a cancerous ulcer so that the supposed animal could feast on that for a while instead of eating the person. During this time, cancer was seen as an enemy, so much so that doctors first decided to treat it very aggressively with poisons. Treatments like arsenic and mercury were prescribed in the hope that they would kill the cancer before they killed the patient. So I guess we could refer to these treatments as the first chemotherapies. The theory of humoral imbalance, although originated from ancient Greeks, persisted throughout the medieval period and into the Renaissance. It was thought that the body was composed of 4 humours: blood, yellow bile, black bile and phlegm. And if the humours became imbalanced, it would lead to ill health. An excess of black bile was often associated with cancer, and in order to try and balance these humours, treatments like bloodletting, purging or dietary changes were used. In the 18th and 19th centuries, the number of cancer diagnoses began to increase. This was likely due to people being more likely to live longer, and also because doctors were getting better at identifying and diagnosing cancer. As cancer cases began to rise and the Industrial Revolution unfolded in Britain, it became more apparent that some groups of people were more likely to get cancer, like chimney sweeps for example. They came into contact with carcinogens in soot on a daily basis, therefore started getting cancer at a relatively high rate. Unfortunately, this did lead to some believing that cancer might actually be contagious. In 1779, the first dedicated cancer hospital was founded in France, but it was forced to move due to the belief that it was going to spread cancer. From the medieval period onwards, cancer was believed to be a disease that mostly affected women. This was probably because breast cancers were easier to spot and diagnose than other forms of cancer. But doctors also believed that women's bodies in particular needed to regularly get rid of humours in order to stay healthy. So they believed that women got rid of their humours through menstruation. So when a woman would stop menstruating, they thought the risk of cancer would increase. So breast cancer was one of the few cancers that surgeons would try to treat surgically with a mastectomy. And surprisingly, this procedure was done without any anaesthetic at the time. The early 20th century was marked by increased medical research into the causes and treatments of cancer, although the disease remained largely incurable. The rise of surgical treatments and early radiation therapies began to give people hope, but cancer was still seen as an unstoppable or plague-like force. After World War II, the war metaphor became entrenched, and there was a focus on conquering or defeating cancer. The metaphor of cancer as an enemy that needed to be defeated became quite widespread in the media. This period also saw major advances in cancer treatment, including chemotherapy and radiotherapy, and the metaphor of fighting cancer was frequently used by both physicians and patients. This reinforced the idea that survival was dependent on strength, resilience, and aggressive intervention. From the late 20th century onward, as survival rates improved and more people lived with cancer as a manageable chronic illness, the metaphors began to shift again. So cancer was increasingly viewed as more of a journey. This shift reflected the understanding of cancer as something that may not always be defeated, but can be lived with, treated and managed. In the modern day now, cancer is portrayed as both a personal story and a medical challenge. There's greater recognition of the psychological, emotional and social impact of cancer, and people living with cancer are increasingly seen as survivors, with emphasis on hope, resilience and personal empowerment. The metaphor has shifted towards one of living with the disease, focusing on quality of life and managing chronic conditions, rather than looking at it as a life or death combat. So as we can see, over the ages, our beliefs about cancer as a condition have changed drastically. I hope you enjoyed exploring these with me today. If you did, please do like, share and subscribe to my channel, Doctor of the Ages.